Hello dear students. So today we'll be discussing one of my favorite poems, and yet we are still discussing poetry and poems that were written in the English poetry in the 16th century, also known as the Renaissance era, also known as the Elizabethan age. So today's poem is titled The Passionate Shepherd to His Love, and it's written by one of the most famous poets of the 16th century, and his name is Christopher Marlowe. Before we start with the poem, we have to highlight a very important piece of information. This is actually a pastoral poem. A pastoral poem means that it is a poem that deals with ideas and themes and motifs about the countryside, the English countryside. Many poets in the 16th century wrote pastoral poems to illustrate that the countryside is actually more beautiful and peaceful than the city, especially that the city started to be a gigantic entity, and it has started to be inhabited by thousands and thousands of people, often crowded and very suffocating. So many poets started to write poetry about the countryside, which was more relieving and more peaceful. So the poem is The Passionate Shepherd to His Love is mainly an invitation by a shepherd to his beloved to go and live with him in the countryside. Obviously, the speaker in the poem is a shepherd who lives on a farm in the countryside, and his beloved lives in the city. So the whole poem is an expression of the poet's desire, or the speaker's desire, for his beloved to go and try to live in the peaceful countryside with him. So we will start first by reading the poem, just to enjoy and appreciate the rhyme scheme and the musicality of the lyric, and then we will start analyzing those lyrics. The Passionate Shepherd to His Love by Christopher Marlowe. Come, live with me and be my love, and we will all the pleasures prove, that hills and valleys, dales and fields, and all the craggy mountains yields. There we will sit upon the rocks, and see the shepherds feed their flocks, by shallow rivers to whose falls melodious birds sing madrigals. And I will make thee beds of roses, with 1,000 fragrant posies, a cap of flowers and a kirtle, embroidered with all the leaves of myrtle, a gown made of the finest wool, which from our pretty lamps we pull, fair-lined slippers for the cold, with buckles of the purest gold, a belt of straw and ivy buds, with coral clasps and amber studs. And if these pleasures may thee move, come, live with me and be my love. The shepherd's swains shall dance and sing, for thy delight each may more name. If these delights thy mind may move, then live with me and be my love. So, as you might see, it's a very beautiful poem. It's a love poem, a very beautiful one. And as we said before, there are two main characters in the poem, the shepherd and his beloved. Although we never hear her voice in the poem, but we understand from the lyrics that he's addressing a love, my love, a beloved. Let's start with the first stanza. Come, live with me and be my love, and we will all the pleasures prove. So I want you to notice here that the word love is pronounced luv. Why? Because sometimes in poetry, poets do change the pronunciation of some words in order to make the rhyme scheme right. So come, live with me and be my love has to rhyme with and we will all the pleasures prove. So the poem starts with the shepherd making a request to his beloved, "Come live with me and be my love, and we will all the pleasures prove. We will enjoy all the pleasures of countryside life, that hills and valleys, dales and fields, and all the craggy mountain hills." So he's saying that if you come to live with me and be my love, we will enjoy all the pleasures that are offered, presented by the hills, by the valleys, the dales, the fields, the craggy mountains. All of those natural sights, they have a certain kind of pleasure to present. And if you come live with me, we will experience those pleasures together. Second stanza. There we will sit upon the rocks and see the shepherds feed their flocks. So you see that the poem is actually capable of making the reader experience the calmness, the peaceful side of the countryside. He tells his beloved that we will sit on the rocks and we will do nothing. We will just be watching the shepherds feed their flocks, their sheep. So it's a life that is stress-free. It's a life that is slow-paced, very peaceful, very calm. There we will sit upon the rocks and see the shepherds feed their flocks by shallow rivers, to whose falls melodious birds sing madrigals. So they will be sitting on the rocks next to shallow rivers. Those are very small rivers, and you already can imagine the sound of the atmosphere. You can already imagine the sound of those rivers and the water. And on those waters, we will hear, of course, the passionate shepherd and his beloved, melodious birds sing madrigals. We will listen to the songs of the birds singing madrigals, songs close to them, nearby the water. So as you can see, the poet and the speaker are drawing a very beautiful image of the countryside and of the calm life in the countryside, and of what it's like to enjoy the pleasures of the countryside, because of course he's trying to persuade a lady who has lived all of her life in the city, and this is not an easy thing to do. And here the passionate shepherd in the third stanza starts to make promises. And I will make thee beds of roses with 1,000 fragrant roses. So the passionate shepherd promised to make beds of roses, a whole bed made of roses for his beloved, with 1,000 fragrant roses. This bed will be made of thousands of flowers, and not just any flowers, fragrant, full of good scent. So you can imagine the scent of the place will be so flowery. A cap of flowers and a kirtle, embroidered all with leaves of myrtle. The passionate shepherd promises his beloved that he will make her a cap of flowers and a kirtle. But this cap and a kirtle are embroidered with all with leaves of myrtle. So those are not just ordinary pieces of clothing. They are made of the finest materials of nature. A gown, this is the fourth stanza. A gown made of the finest wool, which from our pretty lamps we pull. So the shepherd promises his beloved that he will make her a gown, but this gown will be made of the finest wool. And where would they get this wool? Which from our pretty lamps we pull, which means that we have lamps in my farm, and we will be pulling the wool out of them just to make you a gown. This is the poet or the speaker are trying to make us imagine how simple and easy life is in the countryside. They don't need to have like so much money and so much gold in order to buy the finest gowns just like they do in the city. They just need to have a few lamps, and then they can use them to make those gowns. Fair lined slippers for the cold, with buckles of the purest gold. So you see that the shepherd is even promising his beloved that he will make her slippers, fair-lined slippers, very beautiful slippers, that is footwear, with buckles of the purest gold. They have buckles, but the buckles are made of gold, of purest gold. Of course, such promises make you wonder of if this shepherd is actually a realist, if he's speaking for real, I mean. Where would he get the purest gold to make all of those slippers for his beloved? You don't know. But as you can see, the shepherd continues to make promises to his beloved that he will make her live the best life, he will provide the best things for her, and all of those things will be taken right from nature, because the countryside is in the heart of nature. And we move to stanza 5. We have a belt of straw and ivy buds, with coral, lasps, and amber studs. He continues to promise her very fine pieces of clothing. This time, the speaker says that he will make her a belt of straw and ivy buds. The buds on the belt will be made of ivy, mil'aj, with coral clasps and amber studs. And he also promised her to make her coral clasps and amber studs. And if these pleasures made thee move, and if all of those pleasures will move you, will move the sentiment in you, if you think that those pleasures are actually worthy, come live with me and be my love. So the first line in the poem is repeated for a second time. Again, he is inviting his beloved to go and live with him. The final stanza. The shepherd's swains shall dance and sing, for thy delight each May morning. So the shepherd's swains, the animals kept in the farms, and the boys who are taking care of them, and the shepherds they will dance and sing for thy delight, for your delight, each May morning. Of course, you may ask yourself, why particularly May? May is considered as one of the most beautiful months in the year for the English people, because they have a very brief summer, and it's usually in May. May is usually warm and beautiful, and it's a very beautiful month for people to take picnics in the nature, for example, because it doesn't rain. It doesn't usually rain in May, in opposite to all of the other months. If these delights thy mind may move, then live with me and be my love. Again, the same line, as you can notice, is repeated 3 times throughout the poem. It's in the first stanza, and then we have it in the 5th stanza, and again in the 6th stanza. As we said in the beginning, this is not a sonnet, it's a pastoral poem, which means that it is meant to be sang. It has a very simple rhyme scheme. It is written by shepherds. It's written in the countryside, so it's not as sophisticated as the sonnet. The rhyme scheme is very easy. It's A, A, B, B, C, C, D, D, F, F, E, E, G, G, and you go on. So you have each couple of lines have the same rhyme scheme, the same ending, which, as I said before, is a very simple and a very easy to get rhyme scheme. It's not like the sonnet, it's not so sophisticated like the sonnet, it's very simple and easy. The main idea in the poem is the beauty of the countryside, in contrast with the ugliness of the city, if we may say. Of course, this is argumentative, because some people find the city to be more beautiful than the countryside. Other people find the opposite to be true. It's argumentative, but what we can say here is that the speaker in the poem believes that the countryside is more beautiful and more peaceful and more pleasurable than the city. That's why he is trying to convince his beloved to go live with him in the countryside. He's trying to persuade her by offering her all of the good things that she will get if she go and live in the countryside. There are so many important themes in this poem, okay? But before we go to the theme, we have to make sure that we understand the vocabulary of the poem. There are a few words that are a little bit difficult to understand, like for example, madrigals. Madrigals, the birds sing madrigals. Madrigals are short lyrical poems. Fragrant poses, it means a bouquet of flowers that has very beautiful smell. A kirtle is a dress. A myrtle is a kind of evergreen shrub. It's a kind of plant that lives in southern Europe. Anyway, so now let's go to the main themes of the poem. The central theme of the poem is the beauty of rural life, which we have already spoken about. As we said, one of the speaker's central points in the plea he makes to his beloved is that rural life is blissful and characterized by leisure rather than work. Ever since cities began to be very big and inhabited by thousands and even millions of people, this is something that I'm sure all of you understand, is that life in the city is sometimes very difficult because it revolves around work. People of the city work more than they enjoy their times, and life is so fast-paced, you don't get to notice anything. Sometimes you feel as if you're losing your days and months and years, and you have achieved nothing. Because this is the city. Life in the city is difficult, and it requires you to work most of the time. Some people work for 10 hours, 12 hours, 8 hours, and by the time you finish your work, you don't have the energy to have fun, to enjoy your time. And even if you want to, you will not find so many places that are peaceful and quiet in the city. What the speaker in the poem is trying to say here is that life in the countryside is blissful, it's peaceful, and it's beautiful. And people in the countryside, they do not have to work all the time like people in the city. Of course, this is according to what the speaker is saying. We don't know that for sure. As a matter of fact, people in the countryside may have to work more than the people in the city because they wake up at dawn and till sunset they keep on working in their farms. But what he says is that life in the countryside is less demanding, it's more peaceful, and it's quiet, and you will get to enjoy life in the countryside more than you get to enjoy it in the city. Again, this is according to the speaker in the poem. We have another theme that is present in the poem, which is the pursuit of pleasure. All along the poem, the poet is urging his beloved to pursue pleasure. That is, if you are still alive and you are still young, then why not pursue the things that make you happy? Why not seek the things that make you happy? You don't have to live all of your life hiding away from the things that make you happy, that gives you pleasure. According to the poet here, what gives him pleasure is life on his farm, in a very beautiful natural scene around him in the countryside. For other people, maybe it's different stuff. But the pursuit of pleasure, because the speaker in the poem is urging his beloved to live the moment and to pursue pleasures, to enjoy life while we can. And this it has a name, actually. This idea has a name, which is called carpe diem. Carpe diem is originally an Italian phrase, Latin phrase. It means to seize the day, to enjoy the moment. This phrase, when used by the Italians or by the Romans in ancient Rome, it is used as a way of encouraging people to live their lives before it's too late, to enjoy life, because life has so much pleasure to present, and why not enjoy it before we get old or maybe we die? So, carpe diem. we have yet another theme that is very present and dominant in the poem, that is the contrast and the difference between the countryside and the city. Obviously, the speaker in the poem is not a huge fan of living in the city. He deems the countryside to be more peaceful, more beautiful, and more blissful. But of course, different people have different opinions. Some people find it much more satisfactory to live in the city than to live in the countryside. Others prefer the countryside. Those are some of the most important themes in the poem. We have to refer to the fact that the poem is filled with poetic devices, not as much as the sonnets by Shakespeare, of course, but still it has so many beautiful poetic devices. Unfortunately, we don't have the time to discuss all of them in this video, but hopefully we will enjoy the poem more when we meet face to face in class. Thank you so much for keeping up with the video, and inshallah we'll meet in another video. Thank you so much.